Hi, I got a lot of questions from you about the title of my new book, Zara and the 12 Realms of Kayangan. You asked me what exactly are the 12 realms. Well, I can show you actually because I've got a map. Like all good fantasy books, my book has a map in it. I'm very excited. It is a map, but it's also a clock. You'll have to read the story to find out, okay? So I'll show you the map. This is it. So you can see Kayangan is the big kind of circle here, and there's a map of it. And around Kayangan, you have 12, it looks like planets. They're realms, they're worlds. And Zara actually comes from the one on top here, and that is Earth. Technically, there are 11 other worlds connected to Kayangan. If you see this kind of border around Kayangan, this is what I have very descriptively named the borderlands. Wasn't very imaginative when I named this, but you know, it does the job, right? So Kayangan is surrounded by a border and you have the 12 realms. So my idea about the world building here actually came when I was doing research for my first book, Nusantara, A Sea of Tales. So this is a collection of folk and fairy tales from around Southeast Asia. So when I was collecting the stories, I noticed that there were lots of similarities between the folk tales in this region. So the folk tale kind of repeats itself in Malaysia, Indonesia, Brunei, Philippines. We all have the same stories, just slightly different. So it occurred to me at the time that this meant that these stories can travel, they can move, they can cross borders, they can cross cultures. And for some reason, that really fascinated me. So the stories can start off from, say, China. For example, Bawang Putih. I think the original story actually came from China. And it moved down to, there's a version of it in Vietnam, Malaysia, and Indonesia. It's slightly different because it reflects the values of the people living in each country. So the tale from China, the tale of Yisian, was more focused on the dowry of the daughters. Whereas when it got down to Indonesia, Malaysia, the focus was more on the issue of polygamy. So that was interesting to me. Another thing that really struck me was that in a lot of these stories, especially in Malaysia and Indonesia, there was this place that kept cropping up called Kayangan. Kayangan usually refers to like the other place, the celestial, the heavenly abode. And all of these stories had that particular place. In other countries like the Philippines and in places in Sabah and Sarawak, the name of this celestial place is slightly different, but the concept is the same. So I thought, what a perfect place for folktale characters and for folk stories to live. So my idea was that these stories can come from any of these other different worlds. They cross the border into Kayangan and they move. They're living, breathing things. They move, they adapt, they change according to their environment. And for example, the story of Hansel and Gretel might come from this world, for example. It goes through Kayangan and ends up on Earth in the version that we know it. So that was kind of my idea for the world building of my book. If you want to know more, come to my book event tomorrow at MPH TRX Mall, or come to my book launch on the 23rd of June. I'd love to meet you and talk more about the world building of Kayangan.